Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We are again in the midst of what is the talks and no talks controversy, where the leadership of PTI, as far as the former Prime Minister is concerned, categorically denies there being any talks, and yet his own first year leadership talk about how they have been authorized to start these talks or inculcate these talks within their political regimen. Is to what extent is this true, and also whether these talks and their relevance are going to make this, is it further increasing the kind of mockery that is at play on every television screen surrounding this political party? We'll be talking about that. We'll also be talking about, of course, the controversy over mining and minerals bill. As far as the PTI as an opposition is concerned, does it at this time seem to lack a cohesive strategy as a whole against the government? Is it allowing itself to become a cause of mockery overall? We'll be talking about that. Of course, you know, the fact that we've seen them talk about how no NRO, and all of this seems to indicate some kind of a quest for an NRO in progress. All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Daniyal, Sheikh, who's a political analyst. Thank you for being with us today. We also have with us Uzma Kardar, who is with the PML-N, Muneeb Qadir, who is a political analyst, also a lawyer, and Rehman with the PPP. Let me start with Muneeb. Muneeb, there is, we've been talking about this for a while, and the fact that, there is this quest for talks and yet a categorical denial. First of all, isn't this how normally things happen when we talk about a backdoor channel, when we talk about any political party or an opposition seeking an NRO?
Absolutely, and I think that all this going back and forth between PTI leaders issuing statements to the effect that they are open to talks or back channel talks with the establishment. Briefly earlier this year, they'd even suggested that they were going to engage in talks with the current government, whom they previously used to call Form 47 or whatnot. And then they themselves backed out of it. And now they keep saying that we are going to have talks with the establishment, we will engage in talks with the establishment. And then from PTI founder who's sitting in Dara jail, his Twitter account or X account, it's tweeted that he never said any such thing. And then PTI Secretary General also says that no, Azam Khan Swati, if he has made these claims, then he has done that in a personal capacity. Why this incoherence exists in the first place? I think the reason is that PTI is so desperate that they are sounding these whispers to within the corridors of power that, hey, we are ready to bend, we are ready to compromise, we are ready to compromise on whatever claims to claims for democracy that we keep talking about. We are ready to compromise on that. So if you would like to talk to us, then please talk to us. That is exactly why the PTI founder had been writing letters to the establishment from Adiala jail, because they are desperate for those talks. But because they do not want to be seen as so desperate, there is another faction within PTI which then says, oh, but PTI never claimed that. At least PTI founder never claimed that. So that is why there is so much confusion. And to make matters worse for PTI, in fact, there are so many internal rifts, so many in-house fights and tug of war, because once the king of the party has gone behind bars since 2023, those who have remained behind, now they want their share of the pie, their share of the cake. They want to exercise and wield.
When we talk about their share, I mean, there's this blatant contradiction that's coming out right now. First, we have Imran Khan Saab saying that there is no, like you said, the official account categorically said that there is no talk. Marwat Saab says that he was asked to start these talks. We know that as far there were statements by Sher Afzal Marwat has said that they're already underway, whereas Sawati Saab said that he was asked to start these talks, whereas Barrister Gohar said that in fact all of this talk of talks should be stopped immediately, and in fact there's nothing there. So what is this trying to say? Whether if it succeeds, then it's giving them a door, like you said, like an open door there, and at the same time it's giving them a face saving also. So it seems to be that it's a very thought out strategy where both things are under play, in play.
Absolutely. So for face-saving purposes, if, for instance, the establishment does not show any interest in entering into any sort of talks with the PTI, which is exactly what has been happening now for months, then for face-saving, they would be able to say, hey, but this was never on record. This is just one person who said that. And I think that, in fact, from the back door, PTI is actually itself encouraging the likes of Azam Swati to give out such statements that we're ready to enter into talks. Because if that works out, the more the merrier. So this is their strategy, I think, currently. But also the in-house fighting has weakened the PTI's position. They cannot speak in a united voice. Just recently, there was also, I think, a competition going on of sorts between Barrister Gohar and Salman Akram Raja. And Salman Akram Raja apparently had been asked by PTI founder not to act like a school child. This is not a school classroom, is what he's reported to have said. Because who gets to meet PTI founder in Adyala jail? Alima Khan or Salman Raja on the one hand, or Azam Swati or Barrister Gohar. This tug of war has also been going on. So they're all competing to be the PTI founder's favorite.
I want to come back to that in a little bit. I'm going to go to Daniyal. Daniyal, but let's talk about this. How relevant do you think, apart from what is being shown on TV screens, which gives us, there's also been talk about how this is a ploy to stay relevant by the opposition-led PTI. How much of this is relevant to the government, in your opinion?
So, first of all, the question regarding the NRO. The NRO was granted in 2007, I believe, by Musharraf. I think it was the 5th of October. Later on in 2009, the Supreme Court declared it completely illegal. You cannot give a blanket cover to or amnesty of that sort. So NRO is totally out of the question because it's already been declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court of Pakistan. So now, as far as the question is, will they do agitational politics? Or will they do constructive politics? Will they play a role within the system, or will they try to tear down the system? Well, as far as that is concerned, to predict that at this point, it's very difficult. If you look at their history, they tried tearing down the state more than once, and they've tried besieging the capital multiple times. See, now this mentality that by gathering or assembling a few thousand people and blocking roads and by making government functioning or normal functioning of life difficult, they'll be able to get the government to agree to their terms and conditions. It has not happened in the past when they were in a much more powerful position than they are right now. As far as the power struggle is concerned, yes, people benefiting from the government in Pakhtunkhwa, the chief minister and his cabinet, yes, that I would agree. But as far as these national leaders are concerned, and more especially the ones who don't belong to KPK, I don't think it's a matter of a share of power. It's more the confusion is as to what to do, because it's a very hopeless situation for them. Now their cases are before the court. It's for the court to decide whether they he should be convicted or he should not be convicted. So only the due course of time will be able to predict what's going to happen next.
Uzma is with us now? Ji, Uzma? I don't think. Ji, Muneeb, as far as NRO is concerned, this is also a term that is given to some kind of a tacit agreement or some kind, there's also a deal versus a working relationship with the government. Those two are two completely different things. When we talk about a working relationship, there will have to be, because we know that there were talks with the government and modalities have to be set with regard to that kind of a working relationship. So when we talk about like Daniyal mentioned, when we talk about NRO, the way that it was an NRO in Musharraf's time, of course this will not be that NRO, but coming to some kind of a working relationship, do you think that is even on the agenda as far as PTI is concerned?
I mean, PTI is ready to seek whatever relief that they get. It's just that they're not getting the kind of hearing that they want. And the kind of hearing that they want is where they are heard by or whatever within the corridors of power in such a way that they are exempted from all the criminal proceedings that they are faced with, and they are faced with a lot of them. Starting from 9th May 2023 all the way to 26th November 2024, and in between there are so many other charges, Toshahan, etc. Now, NRO is a particular term which the PTI founder used to use when he was the prime minister, and with very negative connotations, when he used to say, I wouldn't give NRO to these thieves. So he used to imply that anybody who used to seek or who would seek NRO is automatically a thief. Otherwise, why would anybody want an NRO? So ironically, now he himself finds, that he is in that situation, that he needs NRO from wherever that he can get it. And by NRO, what is really meant is that he wants exemptions, that his party wants exemptions. PTI itself and everyone and anyone within PTI, whether the evidence against them is strong or whether it still needs to be established, whatever it may be, whether the cases against them, they believe those to be politically manipulated or they are actually genuinely solid. They just don't want anybody to go into the nitty-gritties of the authenticity of the cases against them. They're just saying whatever we've done or whatever we've not done, who cares? Whatever may be, just give us and grant us automatic exemptions, because if you do not, then there is going to be stumbling block and we are going to create hell and we are going to have another episode.
Let's talk about it. What do they have to give to the government at this point? The government doesn't seem to be too bothered about what the PTI can deliver in terms of drawing crowds, in terms of bringing out people, in terms of getting their protests underway. We know that they were called and cancelled, and there doesn't seem to be that kind of a crowd that will come out at this time.
Absolutely. So your question basically is, what leverage does the PTI hold over the government, or over whatever they mean by the word establishment, or on the state at large? What kind of leverage do they hold? And the answer is, in fact, it's a very rude awakening for PTI, but then they will have to wake up to reality. They will need to smell some coffee. And the truth is, unfortunately for them, they don't have any leverage.
Right. Please hold this thought. We'll be taking a short break, after which we'll come back and talk about where things stand politically for the opposition and government, and where there can be any talks or a middle ground at all. Welcome back. We also have with us Uzma Kardar with the PML-N. Uzma, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Mahrukh.
Uzma, we're talking about, of course, the way that there's talks of no talks and there's denial whether there are talks happening, and also, a categorical statement saying that in fact there is legitimate reason for starting those talks. All of these things are in the field. But does it really matter to the government when, according to you, there doesn't seem to be that kind of popularity as far as PTI as a political party is concerned, for them to be able to draw any kind of crowds? Because, of course, we know that there was a scheduled protest that doesn't seem to have happened the way that, post-Eid that was earlier said. So, then what does the PTI have to say to the government? What leverage, I believe, is the right word that Muneeb used, do they have for the government at all?
Thank you so much for inviting me, Mahrukh. So kind of you. Well, I think they have lost all their levers because they've been so non-serious about talks and, sitting at the same table with any politician, that nobody takes them seriously anymore. You know what happened to the last talks? I mean, our entire senior leadership was there and they had something for them, but they all disappeared, because the moment they see that they are really reaching a dead end and their justified demands will not be met the way they want, because they just they want an NRO and they want it through an executive order. We can't do that. This is something which we cannot really even offer them, because we believe in the rule of law. Like Rana Sanaullah said, that, don't ask for something we cannot really give you. The courts can acquit you. if you can prove yourself innocent, and if you can sort of clear your name from all the charges that have been corruption charges that have been levied against you, fine, we have no objection. You can come out tomorrow. So this is the problem. Now,
Did the government give them anything then?
You see, the thing is that right now there is a circus going on outside Adiala. You must have seen it too. Now, what is this all about? They just want media attention. They know that people have rejected them. People don't come out for them. There's hardly anybody protesting. People didn't even come out, when they were declared guilty in the Al-Qadir Trust case. 14 years.
Why don't you allow them to meet then? And the circus will end, as you say. Why not allow them to see their leader?
See, the problem is that there is so much of infighting amongst them. I've seen this before also. I'll quote an example from the time whenever we used to have these reserved lists of women, there used to be one list, and we used to say, okay, now this list is final. Somebody used to go running. They used to hijack that list and bring another list from somewhere else. Then a third party used to go, and the two previous lists used to be trashed, and a third list used to appear on the scene. This is what is happening right now. There is apps. Now, this is what is happening right now. There is no political leadership handling the party. Who is handling the party? Salman Akram Raja. Salman Akram Raja, what does he know about politics? He's a lawyer at best. And all of a sudden, he's been given the most important position in the party. So, like I was listening to Fawad Chaudhary, and he said, Salman Akram Raja doesn't even play golf with anybody. He plays alone. So he's a lone player, and nobody likes him in the party because he doesn't have any political foresight. So what is happening now is that he wants to, have the full authority to write down whosoever can go and meet Mr. Founder. And then there are other people in the party. Everybody goes to the court and gets an order from the court, and then they start squabbling with each other. They start deleting each other's names. There is infighting all the time. What can we do about all this?
Right, fair enough.
We should decide. Now,
let me go. Right, Uzma, let me come back to you on that point. I'm going to go to Daniyal and then I'll come back to you. But Daniyal, Uzma is saying that it's all their fault. They don't seem to have a clear list. There's infighting. There's not, there's no clear leadership, and that is why there is the debacle that we saw yesterday.
First of all, the way she just mentioned the incident that happened at Hadiala. See, it's the government's fundamental duty to show absolute restraint until and unless it becomes impossible, until there's a gross violation of the law. Why? Because if the government will show aggression, it's going to become news. If policemen...
But the government didn't show aggression.
If there's any kind of incident is going to happen, the opposition wants to see an incident.
Okay.
This is their way of getting media attention. As a general, it's a general rule of politics.
Okay,
but coming back to the point, see, the way what was Umar was saying, whether we like it or not, whether I like them or not, PTI is a political reality. Whether their leadership gets along with each other or not, that doesn't matter. The question is their vote bank. How is the...
Or whether their leader is a lawyer or not.
Whether the leader is a lawyer or not, that doesn't matter. See, now the government needs to play a proactive role to engage the people the way they did, engage the youth, and to curtail or bring down their vote bank. Now, if they're going to wait for them to fall down on by themselves, it reminds me of that famous saying, if you sit at the river bank for long enough, you'll eventually see your enemy's body.
Okay, let's
the government needs to be more proactive.
Okay, let's go to Muneeb on this. Muneeb, can you hear me?
Yes.
Muneeb, you heard what Daniyal said, and one, of course, the strategy at this time, if we look at Punjab, for example, under CM Maryam Nawaz, or overall what we've seen of Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, seems to be that you engage the youth by giving them these programs, you engage the youth by giving them incentives, you engage the youth by giving them free laptops, you engage the youth by doing things for them that will make a difference to them, which seems to be, and correct me if I am wrong, and of course Uzma will know better, seems to be the strategy underfoot as far as the government is concerned. Do you think they need a more proactive approach to deal with what Daniyal deems to be the popularity of this party?
See, I think that the popularity of PTI, if we particularly talk about, I think it's really gone down, and I never imagined that that would happen. But I think, as many of my other co-panelists have observed, not many people did even turn out, as Mrs. Uzma Kardar, she said here that not many people even turned out when the Al-Qadir trust case verdict was handed down. So yes, there is no leverage that they have. Now, what can the current government focus on? I think the current government is on its way to focusing on those things, and on other matters where they need to focus on, commentators like me keep on drawing their attention. And what they are focusing on, or what they need to focus on, is just how to get the economy back on track. And from what I understand, progress has been made in that area. Just a couple of days ago, it was also announced that there will be tariff cuts for electricity consumers. So, these kinds of steps are of practical concern. Now, the popularity of this party or that party, I think that is not really a concern right now. And then we are faced with the biggest enemy out there, which is terrorism, which is extremism. And if, the government and opposition cannot speak with the united voice on this matter, and particularly the onus is on opposition, whether they have that in them, the ability to look beyond themselves and or look at what's in the national interest, or whether they're going to play their politics on the basis of a security threat that is being faced by the country right now. What we need in the country right now is national cohesion. What we need in the country right now is peace, progress, and prosperity. We are living in an age where, isolationism and protectionism is...
What, like Uzma said, she said that, as far as the one question, like you said, the leverage one, whether they have any leverage, the answer to that, and, I'll go to Uzma next, is what leverage does the government have? What can the government give them? If they, the government is saying that they have to go by the legal channels, they have to go by the book, they have to, exhaust the remedies within the legal system, all of which seems to be, there in front of the opposition, then what does the government have to offer them?
Actually, I think the government has already offered a lot. I wouldn't say the government, rather I would say the system has already offered them a lot, and they are the beneficiaries of the system. Take a look at the center, take a look at Punjab, take a look at KP. They have hundreds, scores of MPAs and MNAs who are all part of the system. They are drawing their salaries. They they've got...
that is their vote bank. They say that is their vote bank, that the government, this is the narrative of the opposition, that, and correct me if I'm wrong, they say that you have not been able to erode their vote bank, and therefore they are a political reality, and they exist in your assemblies, and they have one province also.
See, the thing is that we are not denying that. Of course, they are part of the political landscape, and like many other parties, they also have there are some very sane elements also in PTI, and they want to do some actual work, but they are not allowed to focus on work. Let me give you a recent example. Yesterday, there was this requisition session in Punjab Assembly. Requisition means called by the opposition to discuss the prices of wheat, right? Now, in the middle of it all, there comes a phone call. Oh, we've been nabbed by, we are not being allowed to meet the founder and boycott the session and blah, blah. Lo and behold, they all walk out. And the poor Kisan and the poor wheat or whatever they wanted to discuss, they are absolutely not interested. Or out the window went all public issues. So this is their extent of seriousness. What do you expect from them? But they are there, they're getting their salaries, they're chairpersons of many standing committees, they have their perks, they have their privileges, they have everything going for them. And these are the people, they do not want to derail the system. They want this tenure to complete 5 years. But the people who are sitting outside the system, they want to wrap up everything, because then they want to, they themselves want to enter. And of course, Mr. Founder wants to be in the PM chair, so he does not let anybody rest. So we can Pakistan afford to go through election after every 1 year, spend 60 billion, and then again the result will be controversial. The seats in which they lose, they will say, well, these have been rigged, and wherever they win, it will be a free and fair election. So it's a mindset.
Uzma, I think you've raised a really important point. Let me go to Daniyal. Daniyal, I think Uzma has raised an important point. She's saying that when it comes to politics of issues, there seems to be a categorical absence as far as the opposition-led PTI is concerned. Of course, wheat is a huge issue. It is for, all agriculturists. It is for, all farmers. And this kind of attitude shows a kind of general lack of responsibility by the opposition.
See, okay, I agree to that, but they're not being responsible. But this is the governance.
They're showing a flagrant disregard for the interest of a very huge part of your population, which is your agriculturists.
Agriculturists. Okay. The same government model they have been executing in Pakhtunkhwa since the time of Pervez Khattak. They've managed to secure 3 terms, as this is their 3rd term as Chief Minister. What our participants were saying, I again repeat myself, this is not enough. Like Muneeb was saying that the people didn't gather for the Al-Qaeda trust, so therefore they have lost their popularity. This is no metric of judging a political party's popularity. See, the problem that I have with this mentality of the government, it reminds me of that race between a tortoise and a rabbit. If they'll start assuming that they're far ahead and then they'll fall asleep, so the tortoise will definitely catch up.
But the question is, are they asleep? If they're taking the right initiatives, are they asleep then?
The initiatives don't matter. Basically, perceptions are larger than reality. Whether we like them or not, whether
You're saying you need some proactive propaganda on X.
Not propaganda, more than propaganda. Like for example, Muneeb was saying the issue of terrorism. Now, the least the government can do is expose the government in Pakhtunkhwa that this is what we're trying to do to counter or to counter terrorism in Pakhtunkhwa, and we're getting no cooperation. If they're getting no cooperation, or like stuff like this needs to be addressed constantly. Like I've mentioned earlier in your program, recently, well, actually for more than a year now, not a dime has been given to the local governments in Pakhtunkhwa. No member of the federal government or PML-N or Peace Party has mentioned this, although they are also stakeholders in Pakhtunkhwa. In fact, a few weeks ago, some fund was given to the local governments, and 2 days later, that fund was withdrawn. Different Nazams from all over Pakhtunkhwa, many of them from the ruling party, they assembled in Peshawar. They were baton charged. They were water cannons were fired at them. So issues like these, until and unless the government takes them head on and exposes them, not more than the government, if PML-N, if they're the opposition in KPK. So I don't see any opposition in KPK. Same goes with ANP, same goes with People's Party. Now, if they're all just waiting for them to fall by themselves, I don't think that's going to happen. These guys need to start taking responsibility. Just getting happy over the fact, the people are not assembling, this means nothing. If you go back in history,
you don't want a silent voter who's waiting patiently to vote. Also,
that's a separate. That's the real metric to judge who. You see, if Jalsas or these things were to predict, Air Marshal Asghar Khan would have swept the polls. He used to have the biggest Jalsas, but it never transpired into electoral votes. But as far as PTI is concerned, it's different. The way Uzma just mentioned, that they are drawing perks and privileges because of the mandate that the people gave them. Now, do you assume that their mandate has fallen just because? See, the only thing that especially in third world, the only or the biggest factor that hits every government is incumbency, because issues are so immense. It's almost impossible to solve everyone's problem. So everyone is going to have one or the other grievance, and if the government is not on its toes, if it's not proactive, if it's not active, if it's not seen everywhere, if they'll keep on waiting till the next move from the opposition to counter it, I don't think they'll achieve anything in the long term.
Fair enough. Let me go with this to Muneeb. Muneeb, I think that Daniyal raises a very fair question. He's saying the war of narratives is extremely important. If we look at the US, if we look at broadly speaking, you know, what is happening all over the world, do you think that the war of narratives at this time is being fought adequately by the government? If you know, and the fact that, you know, perhaps there needs to be more effort on that. Of course, work, we also saw 2013 to 2018, there was a lot of good initiatives that were done, there was a lot of work that was done. So that is of course the real benchmark, but the question is, as far as the perceptions, as far as perception index is concerned, as far as overall what it means for the voter, those are important things also, right?
Oh yes, I completely agree, and I do believe that the government would have to up its game as far as optics are concerned, as far as sending out an image is concerned, and that is all based on narratives. And I think that we live in an age of information or disinformation, whatever you want to call it, but both can be used, information as well as disinformation, to further your own personal agendas, but the work of the government is to counter disinformation wherever that exists, and to counter it with information rather than censorship. Now, is the government performing a good, role or doing a good job at that? Opinion may vary. Opinion may vary between those who are loyal to what the government is doing and those who believe themselves to be aligned with the ruling parties, the current ruling parties, and those who are in the opposition or allied to opposition parties, they may believe that it's not doing a good job. But ultimately, it's the performance that is taking place on the ground that is going to speak. Are people by and large satisfied with the performance of the government or not? If there were to be an index for that. And I cannot give a clear-cut answer to that. All I can definitely say is that somehow this whole current ruling coalition, particularly led by PML-N versus PTI, that whole tug of war, it has started, I think, fading into background, and that is something that PTI must be very worried about. It is worried about it. It is worried about that because recently when, overseas Pakistanis and the delegation had met the current Pakistani regime, and that went, at least, to the naked eye, that seemed to have gone reasonably successfully, at least certainly not as bad as PTI wanted it to be, actually. Whether it was even bad, I can't even say it was bad. I think it was reasonably successful. So these kinds of things, much to the chagrin, much to the disappointment of PTI, this tug of war between the current ruling party and PTI has faded into background. And like I said, you've also mentioned, I think it's not only about narratives. Of course, narratives then, bring about certain situations on the ground. It's happening on a global level. That's exactly what I was saying, that we now live in an age of isolationism, protectionism, huge trade tariffs. And that is exactly where the current Pakistani government needs to focus on: how to make our export markets attractive, how to bring in foreign direct investment, how to counter terrorism, how to counter, any sort of division that may exist in society along ethnic or religious lines, and how to rein in, ethnic groups which are prone to extremism and religious extremism, how to rein that in. I think these are the current challenges, and that is what your common woman, your common man are more interested in right now. So that whole, I think, wave of disinformation that had been peddled by PTI in 2022, 2023, I think that started fading into background, and now is the best opportunity for the government to now really show what have they got to offer. And I hope that they succeed.
I agree, and right. I want to go to Uzma ji quickly.
Yeah, what Muneeb was just saying, if the government wants to counter terrorism, if it wants to counter the other issues, the only democratic way is by engaging other parties, other political leaders. The only time that will happen is when the government will feel that they need to engage someone. If they're going to feel that everyone is with us and there's no opposition, they're not going to engage anyone.
Gee, Uzma, then, one, are you going to engage the opposition in this? And two, do you think that there needs to be a rather, more firefighting kind of effort on the narrative front as far as your political party is concerned?
Mahrukh, could you repeat your question, because there was some disturbance in the background.
We've been talking about how, narratives are important in the current, overall political game. If we look at globally where things stand, do you think that the government needs to up its game as far as your narrative building is concerned at this time? And the fact that, of course, there is one voter that comes out for a political party and one that is a silent voter that waits to vote. So both those are important for any, political party.
Actually, Mahrukh, this is the first time in the history of Pakistan that there has been one political party actively trying to destroy and damage the repute of Pakistan internationally. And we all know which party that is.
It enough? Is your narrative strong enough to permeate to every level of society? That's what I'm saying.
Matter of, you see, it's a matter, we have to counter fake news. We have to counter all kinds of lies, all kinds of propaganda. Narrative building does not mean that you are vicious and malicious against your own state and against your own state institutions, deliberately trying to bring harm to them. Now, what have we done? We have, I think, at this time, globally, we are enjoying good relationships with multiple countries. We just saw how the PM was received in Belarus, and then CM went to Turkey, and we had Shanghai conference, and we have SIFC, which is bringing in good investment for Pakistan. IMF, we've sorted out all our issues with them, and there also it's smooth sailing for the time being. So and remittances, we've had record-breaking remittances from overseas Pakistanis. You just saw recently the overseas engagement which we had in Pakistan, and they have reposed confidence in their institutions, in the people. So I think this is the way to nullify and to neutralize the toxic environment created by PTI. And
fair enough. Thank you so much, Uzma. I think that sums it up. Thank you so much for joining us today. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Thank you for being with us, Daniyal Sheikh. Thank you for joining us, Muneeb Qadir. Thank you for your time. Uzma, thank you so much for joining us today. Overall, of course, as far as the government is concerned, they maintain that for them the approach is one, to instead of countering narratives with with content that is inflammatory, they believe they're saying in doing things in terms of engaging with, for example, expats. We look at the remittances, which seems to have broken the record this time. If we look at overall engaging with other countries, foreign policy front is concerned, if we look at economy, we look at the deal with the IMF, we look at where things stand there. So overall, as far as the government is concerned, they're saying that their priority doesn't seem to be negating what the PTI is saying. They're going to be doing the work and then leaving it for it to blow its own trumpet. It is for the voter later on, whenever, to decide, what they want for Pakistan. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.